Welcome to Tales from the Golden Imp. I am Joe Craig, the Impish Skull. Last time Meg awoke in the legendary Dragon Roof Inn, Ceri asked questions and told tales and seemed to have more secrets to share. Down in Durg, Captain Lahti assessed fortifications of the western gate of Durg and did some research about the area. Knowledge is power, and she was feeling very weak, but now had direction. Dandros found himself locked in cells below the Temple to Belden. In this episode, plans are made, more questions are asked, and more weaknesses are sought out. What else shall we learn in this episode of the Calmbringer Cycle? Welcome to Tales from the Golden Imp. Episode 11, The Leaving. Into the depths of the night, conversation was had at the Dragon Roof Inn. The common room did not get much in the way of patronage throughout the night. Ceri pulled out some books from his private study for the group to review and peruse. Some of them were books of diagrams gathered from Ceri's time in the Fortress of Callisto. Other books were tomes with notes about spells from Ceri's youth. The final group of books were tomes from the Heroes of the Calm, journals, notes, and the like. It would seem the heroes spent a good deal of time here at the Dragon Roof Inn making plans before their assault on the Fortress of Callisto. Through all this, the question came as to why here. It was a question that all three of our new heroes had come to, but hadn't voiced yet. Regos was enamored by the spell tomes, and was spending time copying notes into his own journal. Jaina was reading a journal that belonged to Sylvia. Meg? Well, she was asking questions. But all this boiled down to a single question. Why did they fail? And if we are to succeed, how do we do things differently? This was another question that was floating around in the minds of both Jaina and Regos, but Meg was the one to voice it. This seemed to be the question that Ceri was prepared to answer. Things are different this time. You are not facing the same level of threat that the Heroes of the Calm had to face. At least if we act in time. You do not have to go through armies of beasts to get to the central castle. That is what I hope the answer is. Hope is a very powerful drug, Regos said, pulling up from the tome that he was vigorously taking notes from. We have to have more than hope. Hope is the most powerful drug. If you want to look at it that way. Hope is the only thing we have sometimes to keep us going. Hope is the only thing we have sometimes to keep us going. Hope is what we have to inspire us to change things for ourselves, let alone for everyone else. Sometimes hope is all you have when you're sitting in the gutter trying to live just one more day. Hope and despair are two sides of the same coin. The most powerful coin. The coin that is tossed every day by some. Hope provides a will to live, whereas despair provides a willingness to die. Hope is all we have, lad. You best figure out how to leverage hope. Regos looking up at Ceri. Oh, I know about hope and despair, and the struggles with both. I've been in those gutters, and I know the darkness that is there. It was there that I found that there were things in the darkness that were worse than despair. That's why I seek something more than hope. The philosophy is wonderful and all, and well played, but we are fighting something more than despair here. We are fighting the darkness that has teeth and claws. Hope would get us so far, but we still need more than hope. We need heroes, Ceri responded before Regos could finish his thought. And that's what I'm building here and now. This is where it starts. The knowing and the understanding that fact is where it begins. Regos, you have failed in your life more times than you care to count, but did so for one factor. Your morals were stronger than the facts that would have led you to success. You could have turned a blind eye here or there, and been a powerful wizard by now. But you did not. You sought justice, your own brand of it, but you sought it nonetheless. You could have chosen the easy road numerous times, but you did not. You hoped for a better world. Well, you have to make it. A fact that you know. Stop hiding behind that pipe and scruff that you wear and be a damned hero you were born to be. There was a fervor to Ceri's eyes and intensity to them that was striking. The old man had a fire in him, yet, and he wasn't done fighting for this world. He wasn't done fighting to make Calidria a better place. He didn't want the dark days to return. He had lived them. None of them had, but Ceri had. Not to be harsh, but sometimes you need harsh. Regos, you have such potential to be something great. Don't let your pity for the state of the world drown the person that you could be. Regos Malbroach, son of Daire Malbroach, I call and charge you. From the cradle to the grave I charge you. Take up your mantle and be this hero that I know you to be. From the council of Slykin I charge you. Make not your mother's sacrifice be in vain. Take this damned book and learn from it. Succeed where Ydrix failed. Smote this evil once and for all. From the inner pocket of his tunic, Ceri produced a book and threw it at Regos. As Regos looked at the cover of the book, he almost deflated. Ceri spoke once more. I charge you, Regos Malbroach. Regos spoke in return. I accept this charge. By the name of my family and the oaths that were struck, I accept this charge. As Regos Malbroach of Garandor, I accept this charge. Captain Lahti was guided through the cells until the guard called for Dandros to wake up. Lahti was not dressed in her formal dress. She would have considered herself dressed down for the occasion. Brown leather trousers with a flowing red shirt, and a matching brown vest over top of it all. She also had her chestnut brown hair down for the occasion. The cells were small and cramped, but large enough for each prisoner to have a bed, a chamber pot, a wash basin, and a bit of room to move. Dandros rose from the floor where he was exercising to deal with his frustrations. As Dandros came to the cell to see Lahti, his face softened. Hello, Captain. Thank you for the visit. I almost didn't recognize you there, and didn't think you would be down here for a visit anytime soon. Dandros, it's good to see you aren't lying idle. How are you faring? Lahti responded, as the guard gave them space to talk. I'm doing as well as one might expect. This has given me some time to think and reflect on a few things. The sermons are helping as well. But how are the defenses? Lahti looked at Dandros. Good. But the defenses would be great if they were properly manned. But they are not. But that isn't my main concern at the moment. I need your help. Dandros reddened with those words. I know, I was such a fool for letting my mouth get the best of me. The Jarl and his... Lahti cut in. No. I need your help here. I need to get in with the underworld so folk down here would know where to go. I need to find other weaknesses. Do you know anyone that could help yet? The color returning to Dandros, almost as an epiphany was striking him. There, in the cell across from me, Migs. She could help. But she'll want something in return. She claims to be a thief and, she's not from here, so perhaps she can help. I think her main goal is like the most in here, to get out. Perhaps there is something we can do with that to get information we need. Lahti smiled at Dandros. The look of determination on his face was reassuring. This had been good for him. He needed the time, and so his mouth was used to get him in a position where he was needed. She had seen it before. Those walking the world lost without purpose, a little confinement, and they were reborn with newfound vigor and purpose. She was glad to see that this was the case with Dandros. Migs, you said. Very well. I'll speak with her and see what I can do to gain us this help. Keep your chin up. I'll get you out of here as soon as well. From what I've heard, the Jarl will keep you down here until he calms down, which can take a bit. Dandros nodded as Lahti turned and crossed the narrow hallway between the cells. Migs, you there? What? Yeah, I'm here, but who are you? Don't get me wrong, I like the look of you, but what's an elven beauty waking me from me slumbers? Migs said from the bed, not bothering to get up from there just yet. Lahti blushed on a bit of a reflex, not taking the compliment so well. I'm Lahti. I'm a friend of Dandros. He said you might be able to help us out with something that I'm working on. He says you claim to be a thief of sorts, and I need some services that I think you may be able to help with. That got Migs' attention. She came over to the bars of the cell. She got close to those bars conspiratorially. All right, you have my attention, but I will have to ask, what's in it for me? I find myself in a tight situation and could use a little help myself. Lahti smirked a bit, playfully. That depends on how good your information turns out to be. I need a smuggler. Ideally someone who works on the western side of the city. Say, the industrial sector, thereabouts. The better the information, the more I'll work on helping you out. I have a feeling, with this Jarl, I'll be able to get you out. But it may cost you a bit as well. Fair enough. So you need a smuggler, say? What do you need to move? That'll make the difference on who I point you to. The industrial district is one that a lot of smuggling starts in, but not a whole lot of in and out actually happens there. But yeah, what are you smuggling? Lahti smiled at her. People. A good number of people. Perhaps you can understand how I can help you now. Regos awoke with a stiff neck. He had fallen asleep at the desk in his room. He was confused at the sound that he was hearing. There was a lack of wind. Well, the howling wind that the Dragon-Tooth Mountains were known for. Instead, there was this warm breeze coming in through the room from the window. There were other sounds that he could not mistake as well. Sounds of a city. Sunlight was streaming into the room from the window. He looked down and gathered up the books that he slept on, thankful that any drool was on the wood surface of the desk and not on any of the notes he'd been taking. Regos had to see what this window had to offer. Bleary-eyed and convinced that he was still in some kind of dream, he wandered over to the window. He looked out, and he was greeted with a bustling city, with the sun just rising over the water, which confused him even more. Rubbing his eyes, trying to get his wits about him, he moved over to the bed to sit down. He flopped on the bed trying to make sense of things, and he heard a squeak.
Don't sit on me,
said a squeaky voice. This squeaky voice belonged to a large rain frog that was sunning on the bed. Now convinced that he was dreaming, he decided to play along. My apologies, Sir Rain Frog. I didn't see you there. What's your name and what are you doing in my bed? This was a dark black rain frog. This dark black rain frog looked up at the scruffy bearded man.
Well, you weren't using it. I'm Squeaky.
Well met, Squeaky. I'm Regos. Do you happen to know where we are? Just last night we were on the Dragon-Tooth Mountains, and that out there isn't it. Squeaky was digging back into the blankets.
Go ask Ceri. I'm gonna go back to sleep and leave me alone.
With that, Regos stood back up and walked over to the window to take in the sights once more. More along the lines of waiting to wake up. For a dream, this felt all too real. He lit his pipe, and he had himself a smoke at the window. His green eyes surveyed the surroundings, just watched the docks move. The salty air placed them on a coast for sure. It was the eastern coast, but which ocean were they on? Was this just salt water from a sea inland somewhere? Regos pondered the possibilities while enjoying the pipe. After finishing the bowl of tobacco, he decided that if he were going to wake up, he would have by now. There's nothing else to do but to go down and ask the owner, Ceri, what was going on. He would certainly know. Leaving the room, he walked down the short hallway, down to the common room. The common room was alive and bustling, nearly every table filled with people. Many of them were dock workers, but there were also some dressed in Alistinian silk clothes, which pointed to some of the most wealthy people in Calidria. Continuing to analyze the situation, they were not where they were, and he was not dreaming. Regos found an open spot at the bar and called over to Ceri, who was busy helping Sadie with the orders that they were processing. "Be with you in a minute, Regos. I'm sure you have some questions. Let me get these orders caught up and I'll be right over." Regos turned in the stool and watched the machine that was the Dragon Roof Inn. People were ordering all sorts of food and drink. There were a few more people working in the place than Sadie and Ceri now. Food orders were being brought out. It would seem that the popular dish for breakfast was some kind of rice with an omelet on top, served with some mango. He hadn't had mango in a very long time. That's when he saw the fruit that told him where he was. Regos saw an order of Simon brought out. The Simon was a red fruit that was a cross between a lemon and a tangerine. They were notorious for having a very short shelf life, which made shipping them anywhere a test. Most of Calidria had them cured with sugar in a candied fashion. They only grew around the magma flows below the city of Malhavoc. They had not been able to grow them in any other place, even around other sources of magma. There was something about the colder air and the intense heat from the magma that made the trees grow. Regos turned back around, the sound of Ceri's voice. "Welcome to Malhavoc. What can I get you and what questions can I answer quickly? It's the morning rush, so it'll have to be brief." "How is the first question that comes to mind, but I think that's a long explanation, so something stiff would be a good start. With some of that egg and rice. But Malhavoc, you say?" "Yes, how was my question?" Regos had a very perplexed look on his face. Ceri laughed a bit. "Eggs and rice it is. The short answer for how is the inn moves at the start of every other day. So we are now in Malhavoc. We'll have a chance to discuss more in a bit." Turning to the kitchen, he called out for another morning special and got Regos a whiskey. At this time, Jane and Meg were coming down the stairs to the common room as well. Looking just as confused as Regos was, Meg was adjusting her gloves and hijab as she noticed all the people. Jaina was not wearing armor, of course. The two ladies found a table, and Regos joined them. The table was still dirty from the people that just stood up from it. Sadie came over and cleared and wiped it down. "Morning, ladies. Welcome to Malhavoc. What can I get you?" Jaina spoke first. "Malhavoc? How do we get here? Just some coffee for now, but how?" Sadie smirked at them. "Didn't you know that the inn moves, darling? Coffee coming right up, and I'll get you some food, too." With that, Sadie turned and took full arm of dirty dishes back to the kitchen. Meg blinked. "Malhavoc? Well, it could be worse, I suppose. I heard rumors that you could find the inn in different places, but I thought it was just a myth due to how hard the inn is to find. I've been through that road between Tune and White Harbor over a dozen times, and never once did I come across the Dragon Roof Inn. Now it makes a bit more sense. It was something that was perplexing me the whole time we've been here," Jaina said, rubbing her short blonde hair. She was thinking to herself that she would need it trimmed soon. She couldn't stand for her hair to get any length to it. It made her helmet uncomfortable. Ceri brought them some coffee and some juice and some specials with a plate of fruit. He set down the food in front of them as he sat himself down. His bald head was perspiring. Wiping it dry, he had a mischievous look about him. Oh yes, this is how I stay in business, honestly. It's also how I keep my provisions stocked. The inn moves every other day, so we'll be in Malhavoc for the next 2 days. Don't worry, Holly is fine. The stables come too. The inn is enchanted with all kinds of magic. I typically have some say in where we go, if I catch things in time. Otherwise, I let the inn go where it's needed. It's the legend and splendor of the Dragon Roof Inn. I chose to take us to Malhavoc to get you to a ship quicker. I told you all I'd help how I could. This is one way that I could help. I had to move the place, so this was the place that I chose that wouldn't cost you more time. It was either here or the Tower of Ydrix, which would have left you all walking the rest of the way to Durg, and by my calculations cost you another day or two. With that brief explanation, Ceri left the food and went back to helping with the rush. Having caught his breath again, Ceri chuckled to himself. It never got old. He loved the look on people's faces when they realized that they were hundreds of miles away from where they went to sleep. It was one of the things that gave him joy in all of his long days. Well, the plan remains the same. Get a boat ride to Durg, but should be more options here in Malhavoc. Give us a chance to resupply as well. Things could be much worse. We were still 2 days out from White Harbor and lost a day in the inn, but I think we just made that up. So long as we get out by the morning, we should be good to get to Durg around the same time as we went. But I'm still waking up, so my calculations could be off by a day or so, Regos said while getting some food in his belly. Either of you been here before? Jaina answered first. No, I've never been this far away from home. Though I do have plans on going to Whitehorn and Fedoria. But traveling hadn't been part of my training thus far. Meg, what about you? Regos said while forcing some egg onto the bite of rice he had. The harbor only. The ship I was on had some goods to offload, and I didn't leave the ship. I was too tired, honestly, to leave it. We had a few rough days at sea before reaching Malhavoc. My travels took me up the coast of Kendor to almost Ceri in Credo, before I boarded the ship that headed west. There was a woman in Virial that read my fortune and started my journey west. Things have been very strange for me for a very long time. But I have something I need to accomplish. My people have lost something precious to them, and I'm one of 3 women that seek it. That's why I put my feet to the road to begin with. Mag looked a little dreamy, a little distant while speaking of this quest. So that's how you ended up in Malatin? Jaina asked curiously. Yes and no. Hezbollah was the name of the lady that read my fortune, and she simply said that which I seek I will find over the Xantarian Sea, and so I crossed it. Another weird man told me that to seek Malatin, and that's where my quest will really begin. So I've been following breadcrumbs, trying to find this artifact of my people. If it means I have to destroy a tyrant along the way, so be it. Callisto needs stopped, and I know that I can help with that task. As daunting as that might seem, I've seen what I can become in visions, and I will work on becoming that thing. See, that's what I find so amazing. I've had a similar walk through Calidria since I set my feet to wander. I had something to push myself to be a wizard that I was determined to be, regardless of that damned council and my expulsion. Hell, I wandered, lost and disheartened for 3 years before I finally went to the oracles to find my direction. They sent me to Slykin, then to Edius, and talking to every old man on the ships that I traveled with until one of them pointed me north, which led me to Malatin. Not to say he was that old. Kind of hard to pinpoint his age, honestly. He had a graying beard and was bald, but I wouldn't call him old. Not yet, anyway. But he sent me to Malatin with the phrase of, I'll find what I'm looking for if I head north. Regos responded with his own truth. Meg looked over to Jaina. What about you? Was it just the attack or something more that drove you in this whole ordeal? Not to downplay the attack in any way, not with what we've learned through that attack. The attack was a catalyst for me, though I felt the pull of leaving for a while. I just expected it to be my time to take the pilgrimages of my faith. I've been to Geldstein and walked the battlements there, but the other two yet remain. I assume my wanderlust was tied to that, but it seems to be something much more. So many people lost in just one attack. We have to stop this from happening again. After breakfast, I think we should get started looking for a boat. Regos spoke up while scooping the last bits of eggs and rice. Well, you ladies get us some provisions and I'll find us a ride. I've been around this harbor a few times and I think I know a ship that'll take us where we want to go. If she's at port. If so, it'll be a captain we can trust, which is something vitally important with the nature of our journey. With that, Regos stood to leave. I'll see you ladies here back around noon, I hope. Lahti adjusted her mid-calf leather boots. New boots were always hard to break in. She had a name and a place to start. But still, she had to find Siv von Clive. He worked the industrial sector, and she owed Migs for the information for sure. Migs had told her to check out the tavern, the Crimson Galley, and ask for Liza. She would know where to find Siv. Lahti moved like a soldier. She had to work on that. She tried to not be so precise, so rigid, but it just seemed wrong. It was unnatural. So for now, she would learn to lean into it. If she exaggerated her military habits, it would look like she was not actually a soldier, perhaps. Lahti practiced this. It felt wrong, but it would have to work. She approached the Crimson Galley. This was the bow of the ship, in design, painted red. There was a staircase up the center of the bow to take you to the deck before entering into the tavern via what would be the captain's quarters. The ship was painted red, and the sign was simply a red anchor hanging above the door of the galley. There was a small line of folks entering the place, and you could hear the music from half a block away. Climbing the stairs, Lahti was reminded just how much of an outsider she was here. That would help her in searching, she felt. However, that came with one severe drawback. She would be rememberable. Upon entering the galley, she was bombarded with loud music. The whole pub was singing, along with a song that was designed to do just that, draw you in to sing along. The ale was flowing in the dimly lit tavern. All the tables were full, and the open space in front of the stage was filled with people. Lahti had to push her way through the crowd. More than once, she had to catch a hand trying to snag her coin purse. By the time Lahti pushed her way to the bar, there was a fight breaking out at one of the tables near the back of the place. No one knew what the fight was about, but the bouncers were making their way directly to the engagement. She was drawn back to the bar by, "Hey, Longlegs, what you drinking?" Lahti ordered a red ale, which seemed to be a popular choice. And then, with her tip, asked, "Is Liza about? I need to speak with her." The bartender looked at the tip and gave a nod. Seems that Lahti had tipped well enough to get the information she needed. "Oh, what you want with Liza?" "Meg sent me to pay a debt, and I'm looking for someone, and was told that she could point me in the right direction," Lahti responded directly. The lady behind the bar laughed. "Well, if Meg sent you to pay a debt, your coin purse better be a little heavy. She's racked up quite a tab." "I'm Liza. Who are you looking for?" Liza was a halfling woman with red hair and scars aplenty. It seemed she had lived a rough life before settling down as a barkeep. In fact, she seemed to be nursing a black eye, so it seemed that her rough days were not fully behind her. Lahti leaned in. "Siv von Clive. I've got some business for him, hopefully." Liza laughed. "Okay. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to pony up some more of that lovely coin to cover some of Mig's debt. I don't expect you to cover her full balance, mind you. Once you've done that, I'll tell you a bit more about what you'll be doing to meet up with Sif. 50 gold should cover the balance for Migs. and get you the information you seek. Lahti swallowed, as that was about a half a year's salary as a soldier. The coin she was working with was stuff that she had managed to acquire from the treasury for expenditures. But little did she think it would be this costly to find the underbelly of the city of Durg. She thought to herself quickly, does she try to negotiate the price down or just pay it? Lahti decided it was best to not gamble at this point, but she would play it up. I figured she was good for something like that, running up a tab and leaving it sitting. How much of her tab does 50 gold cover? Lahti asked while reaching inside of her tunic to pull a coin purse from her inner pocket. As Lottie's hand found her way into the tunic, Liza laughed. Smart girl. So it isn't your first time walking in the shadows. From the way you walk, you're recently discharged from the military and forced to work with someone like Migs. Migs owes me close to 300 gold. If you want to pay a full balance, I wouldn't let you. Migs needs to get herself out of jail and start working off that debt. Her debt's worth more to me than the coin it represents. She needs control, and that's how I'll guide her. Lahti passed the coin purse, which was her emergency funds, in case her coin purse got cut. Liza continued. Now Sif isn't in town right now, but I do expect him back in a couple of days. I'll set up a meet for you. What can I send you a message once he's back? Lahti hadn't thought that one through. She couldn't say just send it to the barracks. That would throw everything off. Instead, quickly she said, The Mint. They know me there. I've become something of a regular since arriving to Durg. This wasn't a great idea either, but she didn't have anywhere else to leave a missive. They would find out she was a soldier if they went researching. She just prayed to Halifax that they wouldn't. Liza nodded with the mint and said, Now, get Migs out of there if you have any sway so I can put her back to work. Every day she's locked up in there is costing me coin. With a laugh, Lahti said, I'll do my very best. Regos was in his element. The ocean breeze blowing in the massive bay that the city of Malhavoc was set in was ideal to him. The city itself was framed by mountains all around, making the city a true fortress. It was the capital of Aliston for many reasons. It was one of the main trade cities for the whole kingdom. It was the place where they processed to turn silk from the blue scorpion flies was turned into the fabled Alistinian silk. Plus, there was a school of wizardry here. Not only was there a school here, it was the centerpiece of the city. The tower at the heart of the city was the school Natura Aduro, meaning burning nature, or as they like to phrase it, flame of nature, or a natural flame. The school was one of the reasons why Regos was so excited. He couldn't step foot back in that sanctuary, but it was known to have a lot of student burnout, which means there were texts to find, and many of them would have spells in it that he could use. Regos had oiled his beard since leaving the Dragon Roof Inn to make that scruff that he carried a bit more presentable. He had also picked up some nicer clothes than he was used to wearing. The appearance change was striking. Instead of a scruffy scoundrel, his appearance gave the confidence of a historian used to the road. As Regos entered the third and final bookshop of the morning, he held out hope. He held out hope that what he sought would be here. Booking passage for the group to Durg had taken minutes, so he'd knocking that out first, taking care of what was needed before the personal musings. Regos here and now was looking up at the Scorched Quill, and the scratched sign gave him pause and gave him hope. With his time in the shadows of the society, Regos had learned that many of these marks were marks of services rendered. There on the sign, he saw the inverted triangle that he was looking for. This is a place that would deal in stolen goods. In he walked, and the aroma of inks and parchment took him at once. The incense that was burned was one to bring out the curious side of people. This shopkeeper knew his trade very well. He was using a lesser form of magic to draw in people. It helped them lighten their coin purse. The shop was dark, save the light coming through the window of a clear glass with runic inscription. Almost as if Regos had walked in at the perfect time, the sun was shining 3 burning pillar candles, purple, green, and indigo. A pillar of gemstone ringed the candles as well, sitting on an altar cloth that completed the signs of the altar. Rummaging through the small reading candles, Regos found the first thing he was looking for. This would get him an audience with the books that he sought. It was a purple candle with the inverted triangle inscribed upon it. He would start with this purchase. He did peruse the books along the way, and in fact picked up a book on the destruction of Slykin that he hoped would bring some new knowledge about the slaughter of a kingdom. He also picked up a silk bookmark made of Alcinian silk that held the phrase of Seeker of Knowledge in Old Calidrian. With these 3 items, he approached the counter. Behind the counter was a dragon kid of formidable size, but not showing any of the harsh features of Maris. No, this dragon kid was nearly human. Aside from the size, you could only see the silver scales he carried on his cheekbones, a touch around the chin, and then the normal rough patches where the skin would be thick. Around the knuckles, elbows, and Regos suspected his knees. He had silver hair with striking, brilliant blue eyes. "May I help you?" Setting the book down and placing the silk bookmark on top of it, and the candle with the symbol pointed in the direction of the shopkeeper. "I'd like to purchase these and inquire if you had anything else to look at." Regos made a hand gesture for "I seek," and motioned towards the candle. "I'm Regos, by the way, and I love the sympathy you use in your shop. It's quite enticing." The shopkeeper gave a smile at the compliment in a knowing way, and with a nod of his head. "Indeed, I try my very best to make sure that my guests feel welcome and don't leave empty-handed. It is in making sure that the stock I have on hand is diverse. And yes, this is only the main room. I have a collection of books in the back for avid collectors. I'm Ferdol Tungsten, named after my mother and her line." As Ferdol guided Regos to the back, he took the candle that Regos had offered to purchase. That candle was not for sale. As Ferdol brought him back to the back room, Regos was greeted with shelves of stacks full of student journals. "Journals here are in this room, and historical conjecture is here in this room. Take your time, and know that this room is warded from theft. I'm familiar with your Regos Malbroach, and you have a reputation of trading with shops instead of outright theft. But my spells will consider it theft nonetheless." Regos paused at the mention of his name, so close to the School of Wizardry that it was expelled from, and realized that it was likely that the story around the whole town. Tungsten continued, "Don't worry, I don't judge you. So long as your coin is good, we can have a long relationship. I am just surprised to not see you here sooner. Glad to see your thirst for knowledge has returned. Most spellbooks cost around 500 gold apiece. But that is for those that burned out. If you find a juicy tome of knowledge, those can get very expensive. Well, I shall leave you to it. If you need assistance, please do not hesitate to alert me. I have a ribbon in each spellbook as to its price." Hours later, Regos fished into his pocket and the pouches for his fist-sized star ruby that he had there. Would he part ways with this prized possession today? The gem was worth around 1,000 gold pieces, and in a place like this, it could be easily spent. He had to build up his library again. He had to start building up his magical abilities once more. There were spells that he'd forgotten the formula to that would be useful in the coming days, let alone the days that he had seen. Upon leaving the shop, Regos had parted ways with the gem, but he was back in the learning business, leaving the Scorched Quill with only 3 books. But he managed to negotiate for the 3 of them for the price of the Star Ruby. Well, that and a handful of gold coins besides. With that, he was ready to go. He was a little late in returning, but their ship did leave till nightfall. It was a couple hours past noon when Regos returned to the Dragon Roof Inn, with a worried Jaina on the porch, staring out looking for him. "It's about time, Regos. Where have you been? We've searched the entire northern dock for you without luck." "It would seem you spent a little time shopping." With a bow at his appearance, he gave a nod and asked for forgiveness. "My apologies. I was able to secure passage on a ship that leaves this evening quite quickly, and I thought that I'd have a little time to do some shopping myself. I wanted something nicer to wear in Durg than traveling clothes. And I got lost in a bookshop. They had many interesting books, so it took me a while to make my selection. My apologies for the fright. I didn't expect it to take me nearly that long." As the two of them entered into the Dragon Roof Inn, Meg simply said, "Let's hear it then. What's our route to Durg?" Placing a sack of 3 books on the table. "The Seaward Snail should be our transport. She's a cargo ship that heralds from Durg to Malhavoc on the regular. I checked out the manifest and the speed in which she is back to dock, and it points to the fact that she will be making the trip in a couple of days. The captain seems to know his trade, and is, for the most part, an honest sea rat. They have agreed to take us on as passengers, with our own sleeping arrangements, hammocks away from the crew. We are responsible for our own meals, and if there's unusual trouble at sea, they expect us to step in. But passage was procured for nearly free. It's a right ugly ship, but has a good track record. I opted for safe and cheap for this journey. I didn't think we were so bad to risk fast and cheap, nor fast and safe. Those prices were downright expensive." Meg laughed a bit at the name of the ship. "The Seaward Snail sounds promising. You look good, by the way. Why don't you keep yourself looking like that more often?" With a smirk, Regos gave a nod. "Why, thank you, my dear. Mother always said I did clean up well. I figured I'd need something more presentable in the city of Durg." Ceri stepped in about that time. "Find something good in the city? I had hoped you would take the opportunity to get yourself some materials. Nearly broke me, but I got some inks and quills that I needed for magical transcription, as well as some books along the way. I did pick up one luxury book. A book penned by Saros himself, if the tale be true." Regos was pulling the books from the bag. The Destruction of Slykin was the book in question, and when Ceri saw it, a strange look came across his face. The shopkeeper didn't think it was authentic, and gave me a warning. But there's something about it that the book just called to me. Here, let me see it. I've read works by Saros in my time. He has a few distinctive pen strokes. I should be able to identify if it's a legitimate original. But if it's a copy, I should be able to tell based on the real work as well. I've read his reports about the destruction of Slykin before. There was a sadness in Ceri's eyes as he looked over the tome. He thumbed through the book, looked over the pages. As he opened the rear cover, he gave a sigh and nodded. The book has been placed in a new cover, but it's a legitimate original penned by Saros himself. You got yourself quite an artifact there, Regos. If you ever wish to part ways with that book, I'll pay you what the book is actually worth. You're not going to get a better offer than that. In fact, I'll put down a little bit of coin to lock in the deal, if you would. That book, specifically that book, was in my collection once, and I'd very much like to have it back. Ceri said with sadness in his voice. More than a little taken aback by the emotion that was being shown, Regos could not help himself. Listen, if that book is yours, the book is yours. If it means that much to you, I couldn't, with an honest conscience, keep it. I was merely looking for a better understanding of what really happened with the destruction of Slykin. I've read reports that favor the side of the group of the Magi that said to destroy Kalin. I'm looking for the information that led Ydrix to do what he did. I mean, he became a god as a result, and would very much like to understand why. With a somber smile, you'll find that information there. For that reason, I'd like you to read it. Return it. Once you have, I think it may help you defeat Callisto once and for all. I'll go ahead and pay you for the book. You lot will need funds on your journey. Give me a second to get a purse together. I'll pay you in gems as they are easier to carry. Gems? Hold up. I couldn't honestly accept that. The book only cost me 25 gold. We could call the aid you provided us in the rooms that you let us stay in, and even cut, and we'd still have drinks to pay for. No. I'll pay you what the book is worth to me. You will take it and you will like it. I need to help. And help I intend on doing. We will cross paths again, I'm sure of it. I will want that book back once you're done, though. Take good care of it, please. There was a finality to the conversation. With that, as Ceri stood and walked out of the room, and walked to the room that was his quarters. While he was gone, Regos looked in the rear flap of the book, and inscribed there on the inner cover of the book was something written. To Ydrix. To my love, Ydrix, I will share the truth. Love, Saros. With that, Regos closed the book. He set the book down on the others, and his wheels started turning. Ceri was a student of magic in some way. But was he a priest of Ydrix? It would explain why his magic was a little different than what he knew. It would also explain why the book meant so much to him. It took Ceri a good while to come back, and his eyes were red as if he had been crying. I thank Ydrix you found this book. Here. This should fund your little uprising a bit. Don't look, just take it and be happy. You don't know how much you have lifted the spirits of this old man. Regos, I am now in your debt. Promise me you'll read it, and I won't find it lying about somewhere in the inn for me to find after you leave. I promise, was all that was said. Lore Corner, Natura Aduro. The natural flame that grows within each student is apparent here at Natura Aduro. And just like any flame, it must be nurtured and cultivated to get the most out of it. If left to its own devices, the flame will either burn out or rage out of control. So too are the minds of the students here. Athelstan Harwood, Initiate Instructor. Natura Aduro is the natural flame of the Wizarding Society. As you come into the courtyard, there's an ever-burning flame at the heart of it. The tower itself is faded white stone that is yellowed with age over the thousands of years that it stood. The roof is tiled with pinkish-purple roofing tiles. The tower itself sits, sharing the courtyard with the Palace of Malhavoc as well. The positioning of the tower is overlooking the city at large. As you enter the Bay of Malhavoc, it's one of the first features that you notice. That and the dark stone walls that make up the city walls. The ever-burning flame from the courtyard lights the tower. Relationship with Alaston. All schools of wizardry influence the cities that they are a part of, and none influence the entire kingdom no more than Natura Aduro does for Alaston. Save maybe Sanctorium Moors and Devalton. The rulers of Alaston all go through the school, and the student with the highest marks of the family is typically chosen as successor. The influence begins there, but it certainly doesn't end there. The Alaston military has a unit of mages as part of its core military services. Additionally, if the individual that wishes to sign up for the school cannot pay for the entrance fees and upkeep, there's a scholarship option for different terms of service within the city. These terms of service can be military in function or civil in function. Those that take the civil route have a longer engagement than those in the military route. These typically take place during the journeyman phase of training, during which most start making enough coin to continue their education. Curriculum. The focus of Natura Aduro is twofold, and these two folds are directly tied to the types of scholarship that the city offers. The civil route is less glamorous than the military route, and for all of Calidria, it is known that the military route is what gets the glory throughout the world. The military tradition focuses on combat magic and damaging spells. For the civil, focuses more on enchantments and things to assist in construction, fortification, and spells like that. Notable members. Aside from the rulers of Aliston, going back to the first ruler of Aliston since the tower's construction, aside from them you would have Yedrix, the god of magic himself, was amongst the alumni. There are many others that have called the tower their home in the formation of the magical studies, including the hero of the calm, Regos Malbroach, Vizar Commandant, Helios Dedeos, and rumors have it, possibly even Kalen. And well, travelers, that's where I'll leave them. Passage book and the route chosen. That will put the group half a day outside of Durg on their voyage, and ultimately 2 days ahead of schedule. Regos now holds books that further his skills in magic. Lahti has met firsthand the underbelly of the city of Durg, and will soon meet with another. All is still quiet, but will it remain that way? We are still yet to learn how Dandros will be released. And what of this Migs character? What role does she have to play in all this? Perhaps we'll find out in the next episode of the Calmbreaker Cycle. I want to thank Adrian Von Ziegler for the privilege to use his music to make the story all that much better. For this month, travelers, it's still soup season where I live, so I'll be making a clear mushroom soup. With that said, I want to thank you for listening. If you wish to support the podcast, a rating where you find the podcast would mean a lot, or a simple thumbs up in the YouTube space, or subscribe, comment, all the things that you have to do. You know your solemn duties. Please, it helps. A comment goes a long way. Just this past episode, a single comment from one of you has really pushed that episode to be viewed more than any other episode that I've had. So I appreciate that. And if you wish to support the podcast a bit more and get the recipes of Calidria in your kitchen, as well as additional lore content, please support me over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/goldenimpin. Signing up will give you access to our Discord server. I hope to build a great community over there. I can only do that with you. So won't you join us and join the conversation? If you wish to follow me outside the podcast space, you can find me over at Blue Sky at Impish Scald. I am Joe Craig, the Impish Scald. Thank you for listening, and remember, you've been scalded.